Hi, so for this video we're going to go over how to put on your headset and the important parts of it. In the back we have the knob. This is to make it looser or tighter depending on your head size. The strap also works the same. You can make it looser or tighter. For the headset, we do have some speakers on the side so you can pop it out like this or in how they were, and this is mostly to your preference if it's too loud or if it's too low to put them near or out. We also have the side button here, so this works for if you're in the headset and you see a little bit blurry, you can pop it out or in right here with this button depending on how you feel. For the controller we have a few buttons. The first thing we need to know would be how to turn it on. So if you press this button right here for a bit, you're going to see like a blue one, then you're going to see a green one, and from there your controller is on. Now we have the trigger on the back. This is mostly used to grab items in the VR. Then we have the thumb pad. So for the thumb pad, there's going to be a laser in VR that you will be able to see. With a thumb pad, you can click on it following that laser. We also have the grip buttons on the sides. So for the grip buttons, this is mostly going to be used for pipette ejection and certain parts of the module. The important part of this controller would be this strap right here. So make sure you always put it on just for safety first so you don't damage the controllers. You have to grab both of your controllers to start this study.
There'll be two modes that'll be available to you at this current moment. One of them is the VR mode, where you'll be only using the VR controllers to interact with the various objects around the scene, such as like the pipettes. But there's another mode called mixed reality, which uses these fancy tools, which basically creates a connection between the physical world and the virtual world, where moving an object like this would move the object in the virtual world as well in a one-to-one fashion. We'll explain this in more detail in later videos, but for now, this is all you need to know in regards to the two different modes.
So here is our first title screen. We have student and staff, but since you're a student, we're going to click student. Now we have this second screen, we have the ID and passcode. You will be given the ID and passcode, so you just have to input it here, and you're going to click submit when you're ready. On this third screen, you have the lab module, which we have a few, which is onboarding and pipette calibration, but for this one, you're going to be using onboarding. Now for the attempt, we have VR and MR. VR is for virtual reality, MR is for mixed reality, but for this specific one, we'll be using VR. Now to start the game, just click new game.
So to begin, let's talk about how to interact with objects in the scene. So let's say you want to grab this beaker right here, right in front of us on the shelf. You would use the trigger button to grab said beaker by putting your controller inside of it and then holding the trigger button as so. In order to let go of the beaker, we would have to release the trigger button that we talked about before, like so. To interact with the various different buttons around the scene, you would use the thumb pad located right on the center of the controller right here. You would hover over your little laser that points out of it. You would want to press it, and you'll see this green little laser come out. On release, you'll be able to press any button that's located around the scene. In order to progress to the lab, you'll have to follow the instructions listed on this TV right here. And in order to submit certain milestones, you would have to use either the notebook or the submit area. There are various other ways of submission, but the main two ways are these two. Let's begin with the notebook. In order to grab the notebook, you have to do what I said earlier. Press the trigger button, grab, and place. And it can levitate like so. You can place it anywhere you want. Let's press next with the thumb pad I mentioned before, and you'll see here that for milestones that require an answer, you'll see a little description of submission and the unit type here. Ones that require submission through the notebook will pop up a panel right here where you can press different numbers or submit your numbers or multiple choice responses located below here. Right now it doesn't show it because there's not an active milestone requires submission, but that's where it would be. Let's close it and put it to the side. Another way of submitting different items is through the submit area located in the corner of the table. So let's say we want to submit this beaker here. So you'd grab it with the trigger button and release the trigger button to place it here. And you'll see the name appear as so here. And to submit, you would do the same exact thing. You would press the submission button right here with the laser and you'd press submit. It'll tell you also whether or not you got it right or wrong. And if you got it wrong, you'll have the chance to do it again. Now let's talk about cleaning up the table. So let's say we have some items we no longer use, or perhaps we have too many we just want to clean up the table. So let's say we want to throw this beaker away. So one way we could do this is by grabbing the beaker with the trigger button, coming over to the trash can that's below the TV, and just tossing it in there, and it'll disappear. And let's say we make a mess. We have a bunch of stuff, and we want to clean all this up in one go. So there's this cleanup button located in the corner of the shelf that we can just punch by putting our controller inside of the cleanup button as so. So see these three little beakers here? Watch when I press it. You'll hear a noise and they're gone. Warning though, it'll delete pretty much everything on the table and put everything back in its original place. So if you have an object or an item that you're currently working on, it may delete it. So be very careful when pressing the cleanup button. Next, let's talk about the pipette men. So the pipette men are used to dispense or pick up liquids from one container to the next. You'll see the various forms. We have the 4 pipette men, the serological pipette at the very end. So each pipette man carries a certain amount of liquid. It has a minimum and maximum range. P2 is minimum is 0.2 microliters to 2 microliters. 20 is 2 microliters to 20. 200 is 20 to 200. And the 1000 is 200 microliters to 1000. In order to set the pipette man to the certain value, we would have to go to a risk menu and interact with this button here, which will be explained in the pipette calibration tutorial. Next, let's talk about the ultra pure water dispenser. So you can use this to dispense water into a container such as the beaker right here. So we can grab it with our other hand, press the push button with the thumb pad we talked about before. So you can do so and it'll dispense here. Don't worry, it won't make a mess or anything. And you can grab it by putting your beaker inside of the water stream as so, and you'll see it fill up slowly. Turn it off, we just press the same button again, and you can see that the beaker is filled with water. Next, let's talk about the shelf on the wall right here. So you see that we have a few different items here, but we have more. So you can access them by clicking these little arrows on the side. So we can see the next side by pressing the thumb pad button on the button right here, and you'll see different items pop up. It'll keep going until it loops back to the original one here. Let's talk about the scale next. So it works like a normal scale, and the special thing here is the tare button right here. So the whole point of the tare button is to zero it out. So a beaker typically weighs around 87.23 grams. And you'll see the number pop up and down a bit. This is all because of the randomness of, let's say, like the air, or even the air condition pushing down on the scale. So it's around 87.23. So when we press tare, it'll zero it out. And let's say we want to measure the water. So if we can turn on the water dispenser we talked about before, fill up the beaker somewhat, and then when we place it back on to the scale, you'll see we have 99.5 grams of water on the scale. There's also these voice commands you can say out loud in order to interact with the various different tools or menus located around the scene. So you see like here, like you can say submit, and you'll see the little voice command bubble right here. Whenever you speak, it'll turn green, and whenever you're not saying anything, it'll be red. So let's say we want to move over to the next screen on the TV. So I'll wait for it to turn off. Ready. And then you can see that it moves on to the next milestone and has it for many different stuff around the room. If for some reason you prefer not to use the voice commands, or perhaps the voice commands might not work, you can head over to the menu on the right side that says voice command menu. If you use your thumb pad button, you can basically emulate the command on pressing said button, like hide voice bubbles. It'll hide all the voice bubbles. Next up, let's talk about the tutorial menu right here, located on the wrist. So in order to look at this, grab your left hand controller and put it up as so, and using your right hand controller, click on tutorial. When you do so, you'll see a menu pop up for the controller telling you exactly what each button does. This also appears for the various tools. Next, let's talk about loading and saving reagents. So each milestone may ask you to load a certain reagent. So you'll see a little bottle right here that'll be unlabeled for you and perhaps even empty. In order to change what is on this bottle, right now it says sodium acetate, we will have to go to the menu on the right side, reference, and go to stocks, and you'll see a list of different reagents here that we can spawn in. So let's say we want to spawn in sulfuric acid. So we have to make sure that it's on the load reagent area as so, load platform, and then click on stock reagent sulfuric acid. You could also say this out loud and it'll do it for you. So you'll see it change color and now it says sulfuric acid. Also want to save the reagent online just so we can use it in future labs or perhaps even future milestones. Grab a container and let's say we fill it up a bit and we have to put it on this save reagent area and it'll turn blue. And let's say we want to save it online, all we have to do is say this voice command right here, save reagent. You'll hear a little click and it'll turn green. And when you hear and see that, you can hop over to the custom button right here, go to the very end, and you'll see our custom solution, 127 microliters sulfuric acid, and it'll spawn in the same place over here.